everyone. I'm Jackie, and you all know Jason. And today is probably our last video, unless the Packers make the playoffs. And I'm assuming we'd have some more.
As far as the Packers go, that's how far 5 questions with Intern Jacki goes.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
I'm sure everyone out there in YouTube land is cheering for a Super Bowl victory then.
I know. Otherwise they'll be crying.
A single tear. That's what
Maybe
I'll
two.
ask.
Maybe two.
No, let's not push it.
Okay.
Are you ready to go? If they lose to the Bears and this is it, I hope you're ready to go out with your best stuff here. Not to put pressure on you, but did you bring your best 5 questions?
I think so. Correct that.
Jackie, you and I have been working on your confidence level the entire time you've been interning, and clearly there is proof that I failed. All right, let's hear these crappy questions.
Okay. All right. So.
We're not starting over this time.
I know. I was
You're just
I was
getting
going in
your-
the moment.
Okay.
I was like dramatic effect. Okay. Anyways, so why has the run game been so successful the past 2 weeks?
Well, I'm not sure it's been all that successful. I think
Or
they've.
That's successful.
You like that? You like the air
Successful.
quotes? That works really well on radio, by the way, the air
Mhm.
quotes. I think that they've been more committed to it. And Mike McCarthy talked about on Monday the fact that really, for him, the measurement of whether the running game is successful or not is the number of attempts, not necessarily the number of yards. Now, they certainly want to be more productive, but the last 2 weeks, they have certainly given more carries to their running backs. And I think that's had an effect on whether they can make their play-action passing game work effectively. It certainly has given defenses something else to prepare for. I'm not sure that they're ever going to be productive in terms of their running game, but they certainly are getting something out of it, and they are running the ball more often, if not more effectively.
Okay. And the big talk today has been if the Bears are going to play all their starters, really come in there, and Lovie Smith has said, of course they're going to. Do you think, the team isn't obviously going to admit that they're not, but do you think they still might be a really big threat?
Sure. No one knows how Lovie Smith is going to approach the game other than Lovie Smith. I saw some talk that one of the guys from the Giants had talked to one of his friends with the Bears, and his friend with the Bears had said that they're going to play their starters, they're going to try and win. Well, that may be what Lovie Smith's telling his team. It was certainly what he told us during his conference call. I'm sure that's what the Packers are preparing for. But that doesn't mean on game day he won't decide, this is foolish, I'll play my guys a certain amount. Matt Forte, do you play him or do you play Chester Taylor mostly? Those are the decisions that Lovie Smith is going to have to make. I would think that there's at least some motivation to keep the Packers out of the playoffs. They do have that look of a team that you probably don't want to have to deal with if they do make the playoffs, that they have the ability to go on a run if they get the momentum like they've had the last week, 2 weeks, based on how you look at the New England game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he came out guns blazing and tried to beat this team and legitimately play his guys. I also wouldn't be surprised if he took the approach he did on a few New Year's Eves a few years back, where he decided to basically mail it in and let the Packers win because the Bears had nothing to play for.
What or who do you think will be the biggest challenge for the Packers on Sunday?
I don't think there's any question. It's Devin Hester. Mike McCarthy basically said that's their best player, and I think he's right. He's become more productive offensively. They're now giving him more opportunities again to be the returner. He had kind of gone away from that a little bit during his time as he was developing as a receiver. The guy is just dangerous. We talked to Jarrett Bush today, and he basically admitted that the Packers' goal is going to be to kick the ball out of bounds and keep it away from Hester as best they can. That's easier said than done, as Matt Dodge of the Giants well knows, but I think that's a smart strategy. I think he is the guy that can beat the Packers, and he did, essentially, because he had the punt return for a touchdown in Week 3 in Chicago. So to me, he is the player that the Packers most importantly have to stop.
And what do you think about the Pro Bowl selections and non-selections for the Packers?
Well, I think every year there are going to be these discussions because it's a flawed system. They should let scouts who break down the film of all the teams do the voting, because you even find players in the locker room when they're talking about who to vote for, they're talking to each other, well, Jackie, what do you think? Who was tough for you? They don't even know exactly who to vote for. So The fan balloting obviously doesn't carry a lot of weight. The coaches balloting doesn't seem to, Jay Ratliff going over B.J. Raji is based on reputation. Aaron Rodgers, gets left out in the cold. The three quarterbacks that are chosen in the NFC, Michael Vick, Matt Ryan, and Drew Brees, pretty hard to argue with any of those, but Rodgers clearly had the kind of numbers where he deserved to go. So those guys, I thought the one who was most snubbed was Tramon Williams. I thought he was the most deserving of the three guys that we're talking about to be left out. I also think Josh Sitton deserved to go, but then again, there are guys that got to go that probably don't deserve it. Chad Clifton, maybe even Charles Woodson. So I think it's just a flawed system, and you're going to have this every year.
And then a general overall season question, what has been the Packers' biggest strengths and weaknesses?
Ooh, it's a challenging one.
I know.
Certainly their strength has been their depth. They've suffered a ton of injuries, and yet they still are competitive. They're 9-6. They have a chance to go to the playoffs. Their weakness is clearly their inability to win close games. All 6 of their losses by 4 points or fewer. I was thinking back last night to that Detroit game. Gosh, if they win that game, this game on Sunday is for the number 2 overall seed in the NFC. The Packers would have had an opportunity to get a first-round playoff bye, which would have been great news for Matty Wilde's birthday. And they would have been in position where they wouldn't have to play the first weekend. They would have home field advantage the second weekend. And again, that's one of those close games that they lost. And I think you can look back at all those games and say, well, if they'd have just won this one, if they had just won all 6, they'd have been undefeated. But those were games that, one game goes the other way, and that Detroit game is obviously the most noticeable one because it was in the division so recently and against an inferior team that if they get that game, we'd be having a totally different conversation, and we'd know that we would have 5 questions with Intern Jacki for the next 2 weeks if they won on Sunday.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in every week and putting up with our shenanigans.
Putting up with?
Yeah.
They enjoy leaving little
Well,
comments about you and how cute you are.
I guess
and about
everyone
me.
loves it. I mean, you do keep tuning in, and yeah.
Oh, well,
Great. It's fun. Thank you.